Hey guys, in this week's Casually Criterion episode, we're going to review David Fincher's The Game. But before we do that, we're also going to talk about Godzilla vs. Kong on HBO Max or theaters, and a new Amazon Prime show called Invincible. So join us!
Hello and welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinks. My name is Justin, and with me, as always, is a man who doesn't know if we're actually podcasting or if we're talking about podcasting or, you know, if we're just playing some weird game. Mike, how you doing?
Pretty good. You know, I'm on edge because you never know exactly what's going on when you play the game.
Yeah. Am I a paid actor?
Yeah, who knows?
Or am I your friend?
Is this someone just paying you all these years that we've been friends?
I know. It's a long game.
It's like a Truman Show situation.
Yeah,
Look, if this is your first time listening to the show, this is a Casually Criterion episode, which is a Criterion Collection focused episode that we like to do every other week, where we review a film from the Criterion Collection that is voted on by the listeners. But before we get into the main review, we will be doing our usual News on the March, where we talk about recent news or things that we have been watching. So if you have not seen The Game, you can still listen. And then we'll go ahead and move into the main review. It'll all be time-stamped, so you can skip around as you need it. Again, the main review this week is David Fincher's The Game, spine number 627.
That's right. And as Mike said, our Criterion films are picked by the listeners. The way we do that is we will each pick a film based on a topic at the end of our Criterion episodes. And then we put the poll out on our Twitter account, which is at Casual Cinecast. You can follow us there if you want to keep up with what we're doing, or on Facebook and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. If you want to send us any messages or questions about the movies we're reviewing, suggestions of movies to review, whatever, you can message any of those social media accounts or email casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And then, of course, if you haven't done so already, you like the show, you want to help other people find it, go onto iTunes or whatever platform you listen to podcasts on and give us a 5-star review and say some kind words about us, and that'll make us feel good.
Yes, please and thank you. And with that, I say we go ahead and move into the News on the March section. What do you say?
I say let's go. Why not?
Let's
here.
do it.
News on the March!
All right, so we're here in News on the March, and I don't have a lot to talk about this week because I actually didn't watch a lot that I haven't seen before or talked about on the show before. So I am going to toss it all to Mike. It's all on him this week. Mike, what news is on the March in your mind?
Not a whole lot this week. The only thing that I really wanted to talk about was a little movie that actually is making quite a big splash, more than I thought it would, based on the previous entries into this franchise, and I'm talking about Godzilla vs. Kong. Okay. Have you heard of this little indie?
Yes, I have heard of it, but I have not seen it.
Yeah, well, have you seen the 2014 Godzilla or Kong Skull Island or that Godzilla that came out a couple years ago? Have you seen any of the lead-ups to this?
I've seen like the first of like the Godzilla reboot, the Gareth Edwards directed one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which I enjoyed. I thought it was good. Not great, but good, fun.
Yeah. Serviceable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, so then you kind of know what you're in for. So I guess here's what I'll say is this movie is really stupid, but it's completely aware of everything that it's doing, right? It tries to be nothing more than just like a stupid romp. I guess my thing is I've seen all of these monster movie like lead ups, right? I've seen the Godzilla one. I've seen the Godzilla sequel, which was abysmal, really bad. Oh, no. And then I've seen Kong Skull Island. And I would say that of all of them, including Godzilla versus Kong, I would say Kong Skull Island, more than any of them, is the most enjoyable one.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that.
It's campy. It feels like James Gunn in tone, right? Like it's kind of aware of what it is. It leans into the ridiculousness of the idea of a monster universe, you know? And the characters are appropriately over the top. And you have fun people like John C. Reilly and Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson and people that kind of understand, like Tom Hiddleston, and people who understand campiness, you know? And then you enter these Godzilla movies, and then you have like Kyle Chandler and Millie Bobby Brown like trying to make us cry, which is never going to happen in these movies. You know what I mean? Like, I will never care about the humans or what's going on with them. So I feel the most appropriate approach is what they did with Kong Skull Island, which is to sort of just make it an action comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and let the actors be goofy and make jokes. And I mean, we're talking about a monster universe here where Godzilla and Kong have to fight each other. And I feel like everything on the Godzilla versus Kong front completely delivers, right? And the monster fights, they're fun, they're ridiculous. Lots of buildings get blown up, all kinds of damage and all kinds of stuff that everyone tunes in for, right? But then to carry the plot forward, you have to follow Millie Bobby Brown around, or you have to follow, you know, these dumb, boring wooden humans that just don't have any like affectations that make them interesting. And it kind of just falls flat for me. So this movie's making a big splash. Like, it's got pretty decent reviews. I think it's sitting at like 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think it's like the movie to make the most money like in over 12 months in the box office. I think it made $50 million this weekend.
Oh yeah, I did see that it broke like the record since COVID shutdowns.
Yeah, so imagine what a movie that people want to see that's better and that isn't simultaneously streaming on HBO could do box office wise, you know? So I think movie theaters are poised to make a comeback pretty soon, which is, you know, the real news around Kong or Godzilla versus Kong, in my opinion, which is that I think it signals that people are ready for spectacle again. They want to go back to the movie theaters and they want to, I don't know, experience like big, stupid fun, you know? So I don't know if something like, I don't know, like an indie movie that you and I would like. I don't know if Nomadland would get them there, right? But I think, you know, like when Black Widow comes around, when, you know, Disney's ready to put that out, or, you know, all these other movies that have been kind of sidelined for the past year or so and are kind of in limbo.
Yeah.
I think there's money to be made there. And I bet right now Warner Brothers and HBO are regretting their decision to release simultaneously on Disney Plus and in theater, or not Disney Plus, HBO Max and in theaters.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've always felt that it wasn't necessarily a matter of like, will theaters come back? It's been more like, which ones will just survive until they open again, and then they'll be okay, and who will take over for the ones that don't survive.
Yeah, I guess what worries me is the ones that won't survive, right? Like, we know Alamo Drafthouse was on the verge of bankruptcy, but now they're poised to make some kind of comeback. I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully lessons are learned from theaters during this whole experience, right? Which is to cherish what you got. Like, there's an experience that people want from theaters, and there's a certain amount of picture quality and fidelity and sound quality and communal experience that you can't get at home. And I feel like major chains like AMC and Cinemark and places that most average going, you know, moviegoers would go to in at least in the United States, they have been kind of declining and lowering in picture quality over the years, and sort of taking for granted that people would you know, come back. And I'm hoping that this pandemic has kind of showed them that if you want to stay around and you want to stay relevant, you have to give the viewer an experience they can't get at home, and a certain amount of quality standard, which I doubt, but I also hope.
Yeah, I think there will be some sort of change like that. That would be good. It would definitely get me back into the theater more so than I was going before, because I did have that issue unless I wanted to drive a long way to see a film.
Right.
So I would definitely be for that. I would be for them implementing some more rules in terms of like how you can behave as an audience. Maybe even
that
like,
is something I doubt we will see more of. I think I doubt there will be any theater chains that are willing to alienate anyone that's willing to come in there and give them money. Like, even if they're behaving badly.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, that was my biggest deterrent, more than screen quality and sound quality. But I did have some screen quality issues that made me hesitant about some like local theaters that were, you know, right down the road from me.
I don't find it as bad anymore as it was during the days when they were really pushing 3D, and you could tell you were watching like a 2D movie projecting through a 3D lens, right? And it would cut down a lot of the light quality.
Oh yeah, I remember
back
that.
In like the I don't know, like 2005 to like 2015 range. I felt like there was just so many 3D movies, and the quality and the fidelity of the picture would just be so cut down because you could just tell they weren't changing out those lenses in between projections, and it just drove me crazy. So I feel like it's been a while since I've noticed that kind of like the image is just too dark kind of thing, which is the main deterrent I find in a lot of theaters.
Yeah, I think the 3D movies that come out now are a little, you know, far and few between. And when they do come out, they're the big movie that's going to play all day long in the same theater and not be in a theater that switches it around, you know?
Yeah, I bet we won't get another huge 3D movie until Avatar 2.
Oh, yeah. And then we'll get a slew of them after.
Yeah, and then Avatar 2 will make a crap load of money. And then until Avatar 5 is finished in theaters, we're going to just get nothing but 3D movies all over the place again.
Well, Avatar 5 will come out in like the year 3000 or something.
Who knows? We don't even know when Avatar 2 was supposed to come out in like 2012 or some crap like that.
Well, I'll be waiting.
Yeah.
I'll keep waiting.
So anyways, Godzilla versus Kong, I would say if you have been following this franchise so far, it's better than about half of it, but it needs to lean a little bit more into the camp than even it does, which it does. Don't get me wrong. This movie is pretty aware of what it is, but I feel like it could go a little bit further into being more aware of what it is.
Yeah, the kind of common discourse I've seen, or at least I saw a couple people complaining about, other reviewers complaining about, like, I don't like the characters that much, or the human characters aren't that interesting or aren't that well thought out. And I think, to your point, that's not necessarily what we need in Godzilla versus Kong. We don't need like well thought out characters necessarily. They just need to be fun to watch.
We don't need well thought out characters, but man,
monsters.
would it help? And if they're not well thought out, at least to make them fun and like entertaining and silly and like fun to watch, right? Like,
well, it sounds like
give me a John C. Reilly. Don't give me a Millie Bobby Brown. Right.
It sounds like they're trying to make like serious characters that give us some sort of like catharsis or emotional experience watching it, and I think that's somewhere between having a well thought out character that does that and giving us a fun character that is just a good time to watch, you know?
Yeah, and really, I guess what it boils down to is none of the characters really super matter in this, and all that really matters is how do we get Kong from point A to point B so he can fight Godzilla? Yeah, you know. And on that front, the movie is fun. It's visually, like, it's fun to look at. It's pretty. You know, like the special effects. We're getting to a point now in a lot of special effects where the critique is no longer the special effects look bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're getting to a point where we can start looking at like 3D animals and stuff like that. And unless they're right up against something that's live action, the critique rarely anymore is like, that doesn't look good. You know? Yeah. So... You know, I appreciate that. You know, Godzilla and Kong both look really good. They look like two physical beings fighting. And I guess it's everything that you would want out of a Godzilla versus Kong movie. But I don't know. More humor and less taking itself so seriously, I think, would benefit these movies. Because at the end of the day, all it is just a big, stupid kaiju film, you know?
Right.
But yeah, that's my main thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong. You can watch it on HBO Max for a few more days, I think, and then I believe it goes exclusively to theaters. So yeah, check it out if you're interested.
Will do. I just may, just for something, you know, cheesy and not too thought provoking. Or
I would watch Kong Skull Island first, though.
Oh, really?
I mean, you'll have more fun with that one than you will Godzilla versus Kong, in my opinion. But
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I need to do that. I will do it in that order.
There you go.
Promise.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, that's all I've got. Do you want to go ahead and just move into our main review?
Yeah, let's talk about the game. Let's play the game or
Let's
whatever.
do it.
So what brings you to town, Conrad? Everything all right?
October 12th. Nikki's birthday. This is for you.
Consumer Recreation Services.
Call that number.
Why?
They make your life fun.
What are you selling?
It's a game,
A game.
specifically tailored for each participant.
John, chapter 9, verse 25. Whereas once I was blind, now I can see.
Okay, so as always with our Criterion films, they typically tend to be films that are several years old or sometimes decades and decades old. And the game is actually
older.
a couple of decades old, which makes me feel a little weird now that I think about it.
I know.
But we will not be doing a spoiler-free section like we do on our more modern films. We'll jump straight into talking about the film, spoilers and all. So if you have not seen the game, pause the podcast right now. Maybe more than a lot of the other Criterion movies, I would definitely say do not get a lot of things spoiled about this movie. Just go watch it. But pause the podcast, go watch the game, come back, and finish listening to this episode.
Absolutely. So, The Game was directed by David Fincher. It stars Michael Douglas, Deborah Kara Unger, and Sean Penn. The IMDb synopsis says, after a wealthy banker is given an opportunity to participate in a mysterious game, his life is turned upside down when he becomes unable to distinguish between the game and reality.
Yes, that's all true.
All
Can
true.
confirm, I've seen it.
Yeah. All right. So, Justin, how many times have you seen The Game, and what is your relationship with David Fincher?
This is my second time to see the game, so not very many.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty unknown. A lot of the stuff, like I kind of remember the big things, like the big concept and kind of the ending, and the everything that happens there. And so I remember that, but otherwise, like a lot of the details, a lot of the things that happened in it, I did not remember. So it's been so long since I've seen it. It was pretty fresh to view. My relationship with David Fincher, I like a good amount of his movies. I am indifferent towards a lot of his other movies. I don't know that I've seen one that I don't like, but I haven't seen like the Alien one that he did. Yeah. I think what I struggle with David Fincher is he has this very technically perfect way of filming and filmmaking and just being a director in general. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that feels very sterile to me and keeps me at a distance. And I think he does this intentionally because I heard him saying I was watching a YouTube video on a YouTube channel called Every Frame of Painting. They were dissecting David Fincher, and they had a quote from him in there saying that he likes to think of the camera as this omniscient presence, and that's why he likes it to be so perfect and flawless, is because he doesn't want you to feel like there's a human camera operator behind it.
Right.
And while I appreciate that, there's just some of the movies I just struggle to connect with because they just feel so sterile, so perfect. And it feels kind of hit or miss of whether or not that works for me. But
yeah,
overall, I would watch a David Fincher movie. I think Mank came out recently, and we watched that, and I was looking forward to watching it, and I would any other movie that he has coming out. So that's kind of where I am on him.
Okay. Yeah. So real quick, this is also my second time to see The Game. I have a similar appreciation of David Fincher, although I think I'm a little bit more in his camp. Even the movies of his that I'm indifferent on, I admire the hell out of them. Like, yeah, they are all directed to perfection, right? That cold, sterile feeling that you're talking about that his films have, I feel that. I know exactly what you mean. But also it's something that I've really grown accustomed to over the years. I recently, just this week, watched Fight Club, most recently before The Game. And that was my first time seeing Fight Club in maybe over a decade. And I will say that Fight Club feels the least Fincher-like of all of his films.
Yeah, I can understand that. That makes sense to me.
I've even seen Alien 3, and that movie's no good. That's probably objectively the worst David Fincher movie, but not because of anything David Fincher did, right? It's a well-directed, well-made movie. But Fight Club, to me, seems the least David Fincher-like. It has a lot of his cold camera and all that stuff, but it's less perfect. It's more grungy and gross in that movie. The Game feels like it could have been made right before Social Network, technically speaking. When I was looking at it this time, it felt like the muted colors, the soft lighting, all the stuff that he's kind of known for and that is kind of appreciated about him is definitely on display in this movie. And when I said right before Social Network, what I mean is right before Zodiac. That's what I should have said.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Zodiac, I think, is probably my favorite Fincher film. And I think it's objectively his best film.
Yeah, it's mine too.
I think Social Network is right behind it. I like later period Fincher, I think, more than I like early period Fincher, based on Fight Club and The Game.
Mm-hmm.
I give me Gone Girl and, Mank and, some of his more recent sensibilities, Social Network and all that stuff over some of his earlier thrillers any day. And I think Fight Club holds up, but I guess turning the page towards The Game, I still have a lot of the same problems I did the first time with The Game. I think there's a lot more there that I wasn't seeing the first time and I wasn't appreciating. A lot of really great character work by Michael Douglas. A lot of really subtle character work by Michael Douglas. But then it's juxtaposed with people who don't understand what movie they're in, I feel, sometimes. Like Sean Penn. That's a guy that everyone I think can agree, regardless of what your opinion on Sean Penn is, I think everyone can agree that Sean Penn is a good actor.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But he's not good in this movie, I don't think.
I think he's weird. He has a weird tone to him. Like every time he's in the movie, it feels like a shift in tone, or he's just like tonally clashing with everything. And maybe
Michael
some of
Douglas
that's
is so subdued and so quiet, and Sean Penn is just like 0 to 100 real fast in all of his scenes. Did you feel that at all?
Yeah. It's almost like they wanted to really have them be opposites of each other in a lot of ways and show how different they are, and maybe even how in the end like awakened Sean Penn is because of his previous experience with The Game.
Sure.
And it's like they cranked that up to 11, like that difference to really drive the point home, and he comes across as so different that it feels odd.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly felt it in the restaurant scene at the beginning. A little bit in the car, although in the car, Sean Penn is really playing the part of a guy who's like on edge because Michael Douglas needs to believe that he is scared of this company, So
yeah,
I get it there, but I don't know. The ending scene and the beginning scene at the bar, he just felt a little over the top with the cigarettes in the bar, and you can't smoke here. And he's like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, I don't know. Yeah. It felt a little cartoonish, in my opinion, but I don't know. But I guess overall, what I'll say about this movie is I like it. I like it more than I did the first time I saw it, but it's a movie that I still feel is the lower end of Fincher. And I feel that it's a movie that really does not lend itself well to thinking about it at all.
No.
And that's kind of a bummer because I feel like the whole plot sort of hinges on this idea and this mystery and the whole idea of what is the game and what isn't the game. And to the point where you have to analyze it. The whole movie you're asking questions of like, is that the game? Is that the game? Is this the game? Who's that? And when you do that, at least when I do that, my like analytical brain turns on, right? And I start analyzing the steps that they assume that he has to make to arrive at a certain conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I just feel like it's a bridge too far, man. It's like you know, maybe in like the 70s or 80s, this movie would have been a little cooler, or like early 80s, you know, but like I feel like it's just a little too modern to hinge on such a simplistic idea whenever the whole hook of the movie is the idea that the movie is smarter than you and that you're always going to be guessing what's next.
Yeah, I mean, there's really only one spot in the movie where I think it tips that line, which I'm sure we'll talk about, because I do enjoy the movie. I think it's good. I think it's a fun ride. I think as you're watching it and you're seeing everything unfold and like this mystery is like just going to like crazy levels that you don't necessarily expect.
Yeah.
And like, that's all fun. I had a great time watching it. I enjoy the character work, as you said, the character's journey and what he learns through this experience and who he, you know, is potentially going to become after the movie is over. I think all of that's really great. And I feel like I'm watching a great movie until maybe the last like 10 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes, whenever.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to talk about like the end scene? Because I think that's always the part that you and I have talked about historically having issues with.
Sure. Yeah. But real quick, where would this be? Lower end Fincher, mid tier Fincher, or high tier Fincher for you?
It's not high tier. I think it would be high tier if it wasn't for the big like finale scene or big finale moment of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it would be high tier for me, and I'd probably like it better than some of his more recent stuff, and maybe even better than Fight Club. But this ending part just rubs me so wrong that like I think it falls into like mid-low tier range. Maybe even a bit more towards mid tier, because it's just a fun ride. Like I would show it to somebody who hadn't seen it and watch it with them because it's fun.
I agree. I think Michael Douglas is good here. You know, he had a stint in the late 80s, early 90s where, man, that guy was just on fire, making a lot of really great stuff, a lot of really memorable stuff that has stood the test of time. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, let's get to the end. So why don't you teed it up, so why don't you knock it down?
Sure. So I think I can give in on everything that happens in the movie up to this point and go along with, okay, they've set this all up and done it all in a way that I can logically believe that he's gotten to every place that he's been.
Some things I find a little hard to believe, but yes, for the most part, I would have forgiven anything up until the end.
Yeah.
Had the end gone differently.
Yeah. And then at the end, he takes the girl, whose name is Christine. He takes her up to the roof with the gun and he shoots Sean Penn. And then in his distraught state of having killed his brother, he jumps off of the building and falls, I don't know, 30 stories or something.
Yeah, a ridiculous height. He falls.
A very, very tall height, and crashes through some windows and lands on a very small, in my opinion, pad, like a mattress air pad landing thing.
Yeah.
That is probably the size of like, I don't know, 4 king size beds, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not huge. And, the issue with that is that there was seemingly nothing stopping him from jumping off the building, 10 feet to either side of where he was, another side of the building. And so how they got him to jump off in the perfect spot to land on that mattress pad.
Yeah, they're lucky he even chose the right side of the building to jump off of.
Exactly. There's a loud car that goes by, so I apologize if listeners just heard that.
No worries. I heard it. I don't know if the listener will. But no, I agree with you. I think that's a huge problem, right? And I get it when some people will tell me that's not the point of that scene. It's all about the character and the journey he's going through. That is not lost on me. I think the journey that he goes through is great. You know, I love the scene when he apologizes to his ex-wife for being a terrible husband who's been cold and distant and all that stuff. I do believe the game makes him a better man. All that stuff, right? But the suspension that I am asked to disbelieve during that whole section, I don't know, especially just even him going to the building to meet with, the wizard behind the curtain. All of this stuff just has to assume that he gets away, makes his way back, doesn't get shot, doesn't get mugged.
Yeah.
And then you have to make him kill himself, and hopefully he jumps off in the right place, All of that aside, I guess one of the huge things that I guess just really super clashes with me and doesn't feel satisfying or realistic or whatever. Okay, so the idea that he would be in the state of mind to kill himself and jump off a building through glass windows that he has no idea of knowing are fake or not. He assumes they're real.
I don't think he could even see where he's jumping.
Right. So he jumps.
He's not planning.
To his death, almost certainly. He ends up being on some kind of cushion, and he's like, what is happening? And then he gets up, and then all these characters throughout the movie are like, happy birthday, man. And it's like, he was just wanting to die. And then he has to come to the realization that A, he's not going to die. B, it was all a joke. C, everyone's watching him publicly. D, switch gears and try to be happy. All of this stuff. It's just that's way too much for a dude to be able to process while everyone's staring at him and clapping for him and taking pictures and congratulating him on his badass birthday. The dude just shot his brother in his own head, right? And I don't know, read the room. This isn't the best way to reveal this. I don't know. It just seems like a really tone deaf thing that I don't know if most people would appreciate or feel good about at the end, right? It would just be a huge ulcer given to yourself or something, or at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, he comes around pretty quickly, I suppose, which, that doesn't bother me too much. I am with you on or at least if I understand you correctly, that it's bizarre that he gets to the point of, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
That's kind of a weird stretch that I don't totally understand how he gets there, other than, they've planted this thing that, his father killed himself, and he's slightly haunted by the vision of that.
They're the same age, you see. Yeah.
Right. And
I mean, I get to where he'd want to kill himself, but then the idea that he would be in that state of mind and then within 3 minutes be in a different state of mind and being like, you got me.
Yeah.
Hi,
well,
everyone.
I mean, he sees his brother alive. I can get
I don't know.
there.
It seems like a pretty crappy joke.
Oh, it is a terrible joke.
It just seems like it wouldn't land that way in real life for most people. There'd be a state of confusion, anger,
yeah. Well, I think that's something that interesting that the movie has to it, and I don't know that it really dives into much, but the fact that all of these characters in this movie are, to my point of view, ridiculously wealthy, unimaginably wealthy. And so part of the idea behind the movie and behind all of this is, when you have everything, what do you need? What do you do? How do you get satisfaction when you don't want anything? And so some of those reactions that are odd, I kind of chalk up to that, is that they're just so wealthy and probably out of touch.
Sure. Well, I think that's
you and I
probably
would
definitely
act.
true. The idea that he's out of touch, I mean, that's hammered home throughout the movie.
Yeah, but everyone else too. I mean, the people around him in his life seem wealthy. To even Sean Penn, who is treated like something of a screw up and a failure, but he is apparently insanely wealthy too.
Yeah,
but
well,
I
he's
guess they just
apparently
came
wealthy
from a
enough
wealthy
to have
family.
played the game previously and understood it. And apparently it's
Yeah.
quite expensive, so.
So it seems.
Yeah. Which I guess would have to be logistically speaking, because look at all the employees they hired and the property damage and the real estate they own. And they even apparently can get local news anchors to record very specific.
Yeah, and do a thing live.
Yeah, all of that. So also, like at the very beginning, he brings this clown in to his house, and then like the TV starts talking to him, and he's like, "Where's the camera? How'd you get a camera in here?" And it's like, you just brought the fucking life-size clown doll and set it in the corner where the camera is viewing you. And he's so bad at it. He's like, he sees himself on the TV being filmed, and he's like, "Where is it?" And he starts walking to the other wall.
Oh yeah, that was weird. Like he's looking around when he can see the angle that it's from.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you just set the clown down like 5 minutes ago, you fucking idiot. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing?
Some people really don't understand how camera angles work. I have noticed,
like perspective and
in life, and that may seem weird, but you know, I've legitimately had instances where I've seen someone like try to like, you know, make a short film and they shoot like a wide shot and like, okay, we got that scene, and then later on in editing are like, don't we have like close-ups? Can we go into like a close-up from here? I'm like, well, we only filmed it from one wide angle. What do you want? Like, so I've seen people do that, so maybe that makes sense.
Yeah. Let me ask you, was there ever at any point in this movie where you think it's not the game happening? Because usually, when you're asking yourself the question, is this the game? The answer to that question is yes.
Yeah, that's something weird about rewatching the movie. And that is the thing that I do feel is that I don't know if this movie is that rewatchable.
Yeah, same.
Because once you know, you know.
And everything becomes blatantly, painfully obvious. And you're just like, oh my gosh, why is he making such bad decisions right now?
Yeah. And I can see the spots where they're trying to sow seeds of doubt, right? And it almost works where they make it seem like, oh, the game is actually, this whole company is a con, and they've got your brother conned, and they made him sign you up.
Right. I think whenever the case is made the strongest for this company, it's whenever Sean Penn is in on it and is actively like a part in deceiving him.
Yeah, which I would like more of.
Me too. I think that's the most interesting dynamic in the movie. I think falls flat for me a lot is his obsession with going back to the same blonde girl. And then every time they get in like a predicament together, instead of just being like, ah, crap, I fell for it again, you're part of the game, he's just like, let's go, and runs away with her for a second and then has to realize she's part of the game. And it's like, she's always obviously been part of the game from the very beginning. Quit hanging out with her. Quit asking her questions. Quit assuming she's on your side. To me, that was all very frustrating, is the idea that, like, he's so bad at this that, I don't know.
Yeah, this
he
is
just
one
keeps
of those
falling for the same dumb crap, and he's like, oh, well, she couldn't be part of the game because I've known her for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess they plant her in the restaurant before. With the first scene in the restaurant with Sean Penn, where he even like tells him, and she's already planted, I guess.
Yeah,
to put him
but
in
I
her
mean,
brain.
even the whole walking down the street and the guy getting in the ambulance, all of this just feels so like not a mystery to me. I don't know, maybe because I've seen it before, but I don't think it felt that way the first time either. And maybe that's just a modern audience watching an older movie, right? And it just feels a little quaint. I
think so. I think that's it. I mean, we're taught to be suspicious of everything, I think, in a lot of movies.
Sure. I mean, this is like what, pre-Unusual Suspects? This is pre
The
Fight
Usual
Club.
Not Unusual Suspects.
Unusual Suspects, yeah, excuse me.
I know you know the title.
Usual Suspects, Kaiser Soze, all that. Like, I think that movie is really in the 90s kind of what started the whole obsession with the twist.
Yeah, and M. Night Shyamalan movies being so popular.
Yeah, the late 90s really didn't do well for teaching audiences to appreciate movies in that kind of way, because I feel like a lot of people, and myself included, are always trying to like dissect a movie now, especially when you go back to older movies that were made to have a twist but weren't necessarily made to be pulled apart. They're trying to say something else. And I think, you know, movies that kind of hinge on a twist have taught people to look at it a little too analytically, I guess. And when you can see it coming before it happens, you get disappointed. Like it's their fault, you know?
Yeah. And I think whatever amount of that exists inherently, if we were watching this movie for the first time, I mean, I think it's doubled watching it again when you know everything that's going on and what's going to happen.
For sure, yeah.
And that's, I think watching it with someone else, like if someone hadn't seen it, like if my wife was like, that movie sounds really good that you guys watch, I want to watch it, I would watch it with her, because I think it would be fun to have that vicarious experience of like watching them watch it, or
Sure.
enjoying seeing it for the first time through them and their reactions.
I agree with that.
I think could be fun.
I agree. And I just want to say, again, I think Michael Douglas is pretty great in this movie.
Yeah, he's really good. I mean, he's good a lot, but he's really good in it.
He is. I feel like there was never a better time for Michael Douglas than the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, Falling Down, Wall Street, this movie. For a while, Michael Douglas was just really putting out hits,
Yeah, a lot of dark thrillers and dramas and stuff, suspense
movies. Yeah, a lot
movies.
of social commentary in there.
Yeah, we were looking at the suggested movies on, because I ordered this on Amazon to watch it, and
Same.
all the suggested movies were like late 80s, 90s Michael Douglas things, and they all looked really similar and were all super thrillery.
Yeah. I'd like to watch Falling Down again. That's a movie that I still remember rolling my eyes at certain places, but also at other places being really jazzed about what I was seeing. So
yeah,
it's probably a movie that doesn't age well, considering I believe it's a Joel Schumacher movie.
Yeah.
And that guy's made some weird movies. Batman versus Robin.
True. What did you think of the sort of flashback film stuff, like the home movie style film stuff?
I think it worked. Because I feel like when you see that kind of technique employed in a lot of modern day films, it gives this really clean, polished image with like fake digital scratches on there that kind of look weird and fake. This felt real. This felt like real old film.
Yes.
This felt like the effect, I think, looks better than what happens in a lot of flashback scenes today, or old film, filters that they put on stuff today. I think this was probably legitimately scratched film, and if not, then it's probably just David Fincher's sensibilities of knowing whenever it's just right versus too far.
Yeah, I agree that it looks great. It looks fantastic.
It reminded me a lot of his version of the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yep, I had the same thought.
Yep. Okay, good. I think visually, this movie reminded me the most of that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, going on what we were talking about at the very beginning of this conversation with David Fincher and his sensibilities with the camera and his sterility sometimes, I felt that with some of the home footage, and that is maybe my only mark against the home footage, because what it's trying to give us character wise and story wise.
You mean not enough handheld? You could have used some handheld imperfectness in there.
It just seemed way too compositionally nice.
Yeah, like they put a tripod up and just like filmed people standing in a doorway posing.
Yes, or like a well composed wide shot of people standing there that's interesting, and it's like, I know you're probably can't not do it. Like maybe he can't shut that off even when filming something that's supposed to be home videos. But I was kind of fascinated for a while, and eventually I forgot it. But I just kept thinking, because the movie opens up with all that, but it just started me off on thinking, who is filming all this?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of person is it? Are they? This is too nice. Is this staged old footage within the movie or something? Because it just felt so false sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't arrive there myself, but as soon as you brought up the footage feeling sterile, I'm like, no, that makes sense. I bet I know exactly what he's going to say. And I was right. So I think you're probably right about that. I will say that generally speaking, I appreciate that. But in like a, I don't even know what you call, is it diegetic film? I know what diegetic music is in a scene, but like, what do you call film that's supposed to be actual film that the characters are watching?
I guess I don't know if it'd be found footage or whatever.
Yeah,
but
anyways,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I agree with you. That style does bleed into the handheld, in theory, handheld home footage, which should feel warm and sloppy and sort of like badly filmed, and at least not with a tripod, right? If you're gonna like have people posing like that on a home video footage, make it jumpy, make it imperfect a little bit more. Yeah. And I think, David Fincher's very particular style doesn't necessarily do that style any favors within the movie. That little flashback sequence.
And the other thing too is maybe it's Michael Douglas's memories that just happen to be styled looking like a home movie.
Sure. Like he watched a home movie like 20 years earlier and is just remembering that.
I guess, yeah. Or just that's the way that David Fincher chose to show his memories, is in that old footage, and that would make sense why it's maybe a little idealized and not actual raw footage, but I don't know.
Well, I will say that I think Fincher, as he gets older, leans a little bit more into that cold, distant style. And I think maybe that's why I like later Fincher better than earlier Fincher, is because I feel like later Fincher, once you start with things like Zodiac, Social Network, Gone Girl, those being, I think, the strongest of his later films, you start to get into character stuff, but also mystery and distance from the characters helps those particular movies. Whereas a movie like The Game or even Fight Club or even Alien 3, or even Mank, his latest film, I feel like that distance doesn't necessarily help.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mank. And with this film, so much hinges on understanding Michael Douglas's actions and his mindset and his state of mind, that maybe it would be nice to understand him more, not be so omniscient.
Yeah. And I don't have much else about The Game. I just want to say my final thoughts are I wish that he would have given that guy in the bathroom the toilet paper.
Yeah, right? That was
a
part
really
of the
dick
game?
move that never came back to bite him. And I don't know. Why would you do that to another guy?
Yeah, what if that had ended the game? What if he had done that and they'd been like, well, I guess you're a good guy after all, and here's a party for you.
You've won the game.
Yeah, you've won the game by being a good person, because that's kind of what you either have to turn into a good person or be a good person already.
Yeah, you're just neutral.
I don't have much else either. The one thing that I did want to say, just to point out a scene that I really liked, and some of the camera work that I did really like, that I thought was really effective, but also kind of an interesting choice at the same time, was the scene in Christine's fake apartment, where she points out the hidden cameras and the smoke detectors.
Yeah,
and we get that shot that's like basically like from the ceiling, this wide angle.
Yeah, that was a good shot.
And
it's like almost from the point of view of the smoke detector.
Yeah, it almost is, but it's not. And and he doesn't give it to us as like, oh, let's make this look like a hidden camera footage.
Right.
There's something really interesting about that.
I agree. That was a really interesting shot, because like you see the smoke detector and then it pans down, and then once it pans down and you're no longer looking at it anymore, like the smoke detector, it feels like a POV shot.
Mm-hmm. And
it's really fast, but it's not, because it started out as not a POV shot. So it's like what the camera that he is imagining is in that smoke detector is seeing just slightly off.
Yeah, and they almost look into the camera, but maybe they're not quite looking into it. And it was really well done. I think a really good choice.
I agree with that. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that sums up our review of The Game. Do you want to rate it out of 5 real quick?
Sure, I'd probably give it a 3.5, and it would probably be more like a 4 or a 4.5 if it wasn't for the ending.
Yeah, okay.
But I give it a 3.5.
Yeah, I think I'm sitting at a 3 out of 5. It did go up for me, but yeah, with maybe just a different last 15 minutes, it could have been significantly higher if it would have just stuck the landing and made me think about the themes of, him and his father, and his father's suicide and his family relationships and how he treats people, all of the above. And I wish we could have arrived there in a way that felt just a little more satisfying without asking me to suspend so much disbelief.
Yeah, I think if there had been maybe like construction up on the roof and there was only one open spot.
Yeah, they
that
like
you
little
could have
like
jumped
orange
out of.
like little netting thing that like kind of blocked you from getting closer to the other 4 sides of the building.
Yeah.
3 sides of the building, excuse me.
Something like that is all it would take, and this would be better. But unfortunately, when the climax of the movie is just so unbelievable, it really hurts.
It really does. Like I said, it wouldn't even be so bad if the movie didn't hinge on the idea of you questioning everything that was happening to him. So, specifically. So, anyways, 3 out of 5, and then you're 3.5 out of 5. So it seems like we both still like it, but definitely lower end Fincher for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I guess now it's time to move into our next section where we choose the next options for our Casually Criterion.
Yeah,
poll.
The episode 2 weeks from now. So the theme for this week's poll that we're going to choose movies from is blind spots, which is one we've done before, but basically just a movie that one of us hasn't seen and wants to see. So I'll throw it to you, Mike. What is your blind spot choice?
All right. So this is a film that I have been wanting to watch for quite a while. I keep seeing the cover for it. I keep seeing pictures of it on Twitter. And so I need to remedy this as soon as possible. And it's a movie called Come and See. And it's a film from a director from, I guess, the Soviet Union, Elim Kilmov. And it is a war film about a young boy who goes to war and sees, I don't know what he sees, but I imagine it's not good. So that's what I want to see. Come and See. I keep hearing about it, and I guess I need to see it. Have you heard of this movie?
Yeah, I have. Actually, this was on a short list. You know, usually when we do these, I make a list of a handful of films that I'm thinking about just in case someone else says mine. And that paid off this time because you picked one that I had listed.
Sweet. Okay. Well, what's another one that you listed?
Another one, and I think you'll be interested in this. I don't know if you've seen this movie or not, but it's a film by Paul Schrader, and it is Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters.
No, I have not seen this film, but you know what? The other day, I just watched First Reformed again.
Oh, yeah.
Still
How's
great.
that?
Still great, man.
Good. Glad to
a
hear it.
wonderful
Well,
movie.
I've heard great things about this one. I've heard it's really great looking and just one of even people that I would not expect to be into Criterion movies or movies like Paul Schrader movies.
Same.
But they've seen it and they've said, "Oh yeah, this is great. You have to see it." So
Yeah, I think this is the movie that Paul Schrader will be remembered for, and that's the guy who wrote Taxi Driver. So,
right.
so that
Cool. Well,
tells you something.
yeah. Well, that is my choice. So just quickly to recap, Mike's choice was Come and See, and my choice is Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters. So if you're listening to this now, that poll is up on our Twitter account at Casual Cinecast, so go follow us.
Dude,
there,
this is a good poll. There's no losing here.
No, it's a real win-win, as they say.
Yeah. Too bad Chris isn't here to choose another winner.
I know. Well, he'd probably choose one that's dumb.
Yeah, he'd probably choose it and ruin the whole win-win aspect of it. We'd have to be like win-win meh.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, also that poll, the link to that will be in our show notes, so check there as well.
Yes. So, does that do it?
Yeah, I think that does it. Thanks, Mike, for talking about the game and other things with me.
No problem, man. It was my pleasure. And stay tuned to this channel because next week, I don't even know what's coming out in theaters because this pandemic has taught me to not look at new releases anymore because I assume they don't exist. But
Yeah.
I'm sure something's coming out and I'm sure we'll watch it.
Yeah, we'll watch something and we'll review it and you'll be able to hear it. I don't know what it will be.
All right,
But-
cool.
Until then, Mike, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, listeners. See you later.
See you later.